Hey everyone, it's Harry here, and welcome back to another week of Anima Season defense matches. I didn't change a whole lot on the team this week. The biggest tweak was giving Myrrh a defense tactic seal. While I don't normally like using visible buffs on a defense team, because they're very easy to exploit with panic effects, it's not so bad here thanks to Felix's Unity skill, which basically keeps the buff safe even if he gets panicked. I also gave Ceres 2 distant guard skills, mostly just because she can cover Felix a lot better than Mirabilis and Rajat can from this position. And together all of these bonuses really help Felix survive even the most exceptional Lynja squads. The results were really positive overall this week. While I did have one clean loss near the end, the rest of the matches were a solid wall of success, which is really great to see, honestly, since I'm still tinkering with this setup and there are some things I'd still like to try and fix overall. But it's still really good to see results like this. So let's get to the first match. This was an interesting start to the week. They brought a bonus week Fjorm with a collection of mythics, and a Bridal Fjorm support to help with isolation, along with a Guinevere to help just be a bit of an offensive threat and or mage tank. I don't know how good this squad is against a team with major green threats, but maybe they thought that Rajat would be cleared out pretty easily by Guinevere, and, well, Edelgard doesn't move at the start of this, so she's not too much of an immediate threat. They end up trying to bait this from the right side, isolating Mirabilis so that that's one less dance available. And I think they were hoping to have Guinevere deal with Rajat and Dorothea, but Dorothea can't actually do enough damage to her for attacking to dancing. And once she dances Eliwood goes and knocks out Guinevere. And then gets to Gale Force through Fjorm as well. And after that, the Ground Orders chain actually lets Felix jump all the way forward and pick Plumeria off as well. And with those 3 down, that's just enough for them to surrender the match. This was a bit of a spike in investment. They brought along a +10 Norn, complement their bonus week Myrrh and their Edelgard. There's a lot of good stuff to work with on this team. Lysithea is an excellent player phase answer to a lot of things that defense teams try to bring to the table. And Edelgard's and Myrrh are both great walls for her to retreat behind. It is interesting to see a triple tank approach, and I'm not entirely sure why they tested that bolt trap when it would hit their entire team like this, without actually hitting Lysithea, who could definitely benefit from getting hit. They end up moving in to try and sort of double tank this with Edelgard and Norn. Unfortunately, they may have missed the rally trap or just underestimated Eliwood here, especially since Edelgard wasn't starting this fight at full health, and Eliwood actually gets to finish her off before Gale forcing through Plumeria. And as bulky as a bonus week Myrrh can be,
Here, take this.
Felix actually has enough firepower to take her down. A lot of that was thanks to the guard effect preventing her noontime.
Let's see what this does.
But here, Lorne actually can't handle her shot, since Quick Riposte is being disabled by no follow-up. And then she gets danced and can finish Lorne off.
Oops.
They do decide to keep going here. Lysithea can finish off Eliwood without any problems at all. But they're a bit stuck since they can't get in range of anything else. And once Ceres gets danced forward, it's lights out for Reagan.
Not good enough.
The rest of the team can't quite get in range of Lysithea to pick her off, but at this point she's cornered, and the only things she can actually attack force her to attack Felix instead.
No, not yet.
And she can't do anything to him. This was a fun match to see. It's always interesting to see a Brave Ike Lucina team. And even more so when the Ike is as close to full investment as this one is. I think that Nullsea Disrupt is becoming really important for him, especially in Astra seasons when you don't have to worry about things like Bramamund. Since there are a lot more counterattack suppression effects running around right now, mostly because of save armors. And I also really like the even pulse tie on Lucina, especially with the introduction of Legendary Seabird. I don't know how much she's going to show up on defenses, but I do think that it'll be a very good way to help disable his pre-charged special if people try to quicken to pulse it. They take a turn to test the Bolt Trap and use their healing tower to recover before moving into position to tank this. I think though they might have been caught off guard by the tile Eliwood decided to rally from, and he gets a very easy knockout on Plumeria to start things off. Felix moves in next, and he can't really accomplish too much, thanks to Irvin's Desperation effect, or Reverse Desperation, but he doesn't take much damage in return. Sadly, Rajat can't quite finish Lucina off in one hit here. There were a few times this week that had me thinking of how much more effective Rajat will be with additional investment. This was one of them. They decided to keep going, and Reagan can pick off Eliwood without any problems. Ike can't really attack in though, since Edelgard's busy protecting everybody with near save. So they just go into this fight here. Felix actually survives Ike pretty well, even through an Aether. And does a solid job of helping to bring his health down. Rajat moves in next, and unfortunately, she can't quite avoid being doubled.
I will defeat you.
She's just not quite invested enough to handle that yet. And thanks to Nullsea Disrupt, I can continue to counterattack through all of this. Unfortunately, their Bolt Tower actually backfires a bit on them here. And even though it means that I can knock Ceres out very easily, it also means that his Aether barely heals him. which lets Mirabilis move in for a bit of an unexpected spotlight, and she takes Ike down. And losing Ike is enough for them to surrender the match. This one was really fun to see. It's actually pretty rare for me to see a fully merged Ashnard like this in a defense match. I like this build a lot, actually, although I'm not a huge fan of card bearing. It's really great to see him when he's being protected by a save armor. And it's something I might try out myself at some point. I think that it would actually work extremely well with something like Attack, Defense, Rain, and Felix. They take a turn to move into position and back Ashnard up with Flayn and Henriette, and then say go. I think, like the last match, though, they might have gotten caught off guard by where exactly Hollywood rallied from. And he moves in to take out Reagan.
Not good enough.
Which also lets him Gale Force forward and pick off Flayn as well.
Mother, soon.
And then since she can't do any damage to Henriette, or Plumeria either,
I knew it.
Dorothy actually gets to do her job and dead Sally Wood for another knockout on Plumeria. Felix moves in to attack Henriette, and it's
Here, take this.
just barely short of being able to knock her out. The rest of the team can't make it in range, but losing those is enough for them to surrender the match. It's interesting to see another Brave Ike and Lucina combo so soon after the other one. The set they're running for them is actually very similar, just at a lower investment level. They're a very strong combination, honestly. Even now, they've held up extremely well, and with the extra team slot, it's actually a lot easier to run them. Which is really nice, honestly. They also brought Flayn along, who can offer some extra damage reduction to Ike, but it doesn't stack up as well as some other support effects could. So, on the other hand, he does get it for free, effectively, as long as you're okay with using the team slot for it. Testing the trap there forced them to take a couple of turns to heal. And once they've done that, they shove Ike onto the defense tile to start things off. I think they might have been hoping to pick Edelgard off before the fight started, but they couldn't quite do that. Unfortunately, when Ike's fighting Rajat at a similar investment level, she actually demolishes him. And even if she doesn't really actually finish him off, she still cripples him and survives, which lets her move on to take down Lucina. And once he's at one hit point, it's very easy for Eliud to finish Ike off.
I'm sorry.
And then Lunge puts him in a nice easy dance spot for Mirabilis, and he can go pick up a second knockout on Naga.
Such power.
And once he has Gale Force active, he can go in for a third knockout on Reagan.
Not good enough.
And then ground orders lets Felix jump in
But how?
and pick up another knockout on Altina, which nearly clean swept the team in a single turn, which is really fun to see. Flayn on her own really can't get anything done, so they just make a token attack on Felix and let us close out the match.
Mother, soon.
This was a very fun one to see, just because it's really rare to see a maxed out Brave Dimitri. The A support with Flayn instead of an S actually is very important for this, and I'm not sure they factored that in. It does hurt a bit to see his weapon get replaced with a courtly candle, but it makes sense with this composition, since they're using a Henriette to guard him from anything ranged, with Flayn just to provide them both with some extra damage reduction. Eliud ends up rallying forwards here, and gets danced to attack Dimitri. And Dimitri ends up being a single point of damage away from finishing Eliud off. I think they might have gone and finished farming out that support after this match.
Mother, soon.
Once he has Gale Force active, he can tear through Flayn pretty easily. And Wings of Mercy continues to actually pay off this week, letting Eliud go and pick up another knockout on Plumeria. And the rest of the team can't get in range, but missing those two is enough for them to surrender. This was an interesting match to see. I think I see more Hectors with far save than without these days, so seeing just a basic Special Fighter Bonfire Mystic Boost Hector was a little different. Backing him up with Flayn is a great way to help Mystic Boost be enough for him to just sustain through the entire enemy team, and being able to reply to counterattacks with an instant Bonfire is a great way to help him just secure one-shots on almost any opponents he fights. I take a turn just to test the trap and then break the panic manner, which is a little odd since they're tanking from the other side of the map anyway. But once they do, they move into position. Like a couple of other teams this week, though, I think they got caught off guard by the position Eliud rallied from, which lets him just run past Hector and pick off Flayn without any problems at all.
Soon.
Sadly, because he one-shots her, he doesn't get to Gale Force through anything else. And Felix ends up going after Hector.
Pierce the sky, Maltet!
He can survive the bonfire pretty easily thanks to the fence tile, but unfortunately, Rajat can't. Not yet.
Clear a path!
I think with enough investment and probably an impact skill, she'd be able to. But losing Flayn is enough for them to surrender the match. This one was a bit of an eye-opener. I don't think I've been visited by a maxed out Halloween Robin yet. And yeah, she's really impressive. They're backing her up with 4 mythics and a Flayn, which makes her incredibly hard to knock out. They also have that plus 10 Naga, who is sadly not being used as a carry. and they just move into position to start things off on turn 1. I think they may have missed this rally trap, or just thought that Robin would be able to handle Eliwood even through the triangle disadvantage. But she can't, actually. Even if she does come close. And once he lunges past her and Gale Forces, Flayn is a very easy knockout to pick up.
Soon.
And while she's still very solid even on her own,
Do I look merry?
Felix can actually finish her off with that bonfire. Sadly, Dorothea does not dance this time with Wings of Mercy, and gets baited into attacking Plumeria. She nearly finishes Plumeria off here, though, which was neat to see. Still, losing those two is enough for them to surrender the match. This one was the clean loss of the week, which was a little unfortunate to see. They brought along a far-safe Hector and Gustav, backed up with Flayn. And the triangle of Flayn with a far-save and near-save armor squad is extremely difficult to break, just because of how much bulk they end up getting, and being able to specialize each unit for specific sets of combat helps a lot too. Overall though, it's a very well structured team, so... They spent a few turns trying to set up the right positioning, and they actually have the very clever idea of using Plumeria's rain skill to help boost their survivability even further. Eliwood rallies forward, but unfortunately this time he can't attack Flayn without going through Gustav first. And watching him do no damage at all to Gustav is just... hurts a bit.
Pierce the sky, Maltet!
Yeah. Sadly, Felix can't really get much done either. And nobody else can get in range. So they just have Reagan pick off Eliwood. And then just pull their team back. Myrrh attacking into Gustav here was really unfortunate to see. I think it's just because she's the only one who survives the combat. And that, again, comes down to Rajat not being able to survive this bonfire response. Sadly, Dorothea then gets baited into attacking Hector. And Ceres can't really do much into Gustav. Open triangles a bit too much. And Felix, impressively, actually can't beat the speed check on Hector to attack twice there. It really does hurt a bit to see the team just not able to even dent this. And it has me thinking about ways to really punish save armors beyond just trying to have Rajat shut down their counterattacks, which usually works out pretty well.
Out of my sight!
But not this time. This was very well played, and honestly, like I said, a really well structured double save armor team. And it was a fun rematch too.
For our people!
Sadly, while Cirrus is really good as long as she's attacking a non-green unit, Gustav's a bit much for her. No. And from here it's easy enough for them to go after the pots. They are a little short on turns though, which means they can't actually end up picking both pots up before the end of the match. I might also try giving Edelgard a different ace skill at some point, just to try and help increase her multi-phase threat. As good as Close Defense 4 is, it doesn't really help her actually accomplish much when she's forced to attack. And it's easy enough for them to close that out. It is nice to bounce back from a loss with a successful defense, and this was a very fun, successful defense to see. This team brought along 2 Lynjas, which seems a little excessive, but it's certainly very threatening, especially when they're backed up with a duo Peony and a Plumeria for dances. On top of Reagan too, so they have even more offense options. The escape route double Brazen Lyn is actually a really clever take on her skill set as well, and it does a lot for helping her crack through enemy targets, as well as being able to just warp all over the map. They do have a slight problem though, and that problem's name is Felix. Punching through Felix is very hard for Lyn to do at this point, and they spend several turns trying to figure out a way to get Lyn to actually break through him. Or just being able to break through Edelgard, I think, with Reagan, which they also can't do. And they end up throwing everything in here to try and help her break through Felix, and it just doesn't work. So they end up surrendering without even attacking once. This was another interesting match to see, especially right after that last one. I think this team is structured as a very heavily anti-Cav line one, using both Fallen Leon and a Farsave Henriette. And Loki support on top of that too. I think Loki's actually a really excellent support unit these days. Her ability to just be a mobile tactics room is really great at either shutting down Cav lines or shutting down a lot of the turn 1 engagement strategies that people are using. They had a bit of an awkward approach to this though. They spend a couple of turns setting up, and then test the bolt trap and immediately surrender. There was one rematch right at the end of the season, but they decided not to bother trying, I guess. So, bit of an anticlimactic end to the week there, but overall things went really well. I'm pretty happy with how the defense turned out, and I'm still thinking about a way to handle near save. I think far save is mostly handled by Rajat, but it's a puzzle that I'll work on. I do like how well the team is doing against Lynjas. Only saw one of those this week, and it got shut down pretty decisively, so... I hope you've enjoyed the video. Good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.